Good evening. Tempers flared at Universal Studios tonight when the park ran out of its signature drink, butterbeer. What started as disappointment soon grew into a noisy confrontation with security and police.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. It's Christmas. Yeah. Sleigh bells ring. It's Christmas. Gift in my hand. It's Christmas. Rap quick, more Christmas. Right up the block. It's Christmas. Yeah.
Yo, move. Back up. Oh my God. It's hitting the monorail.
Get ready to blast beyond your imagination at the all-new Epic Universe theme park.
It's the adventure of every world in one place.
Thrill through twisting coasters, journey through cosmic frontiers, and end your night under dazzling...
Buckle up, time travelers. Blast through the past, rocket to the future, and hang on tight as you chase the clock in the ultimate adventure. It's fast, it's furious, and it's only at Universal Studios Orlando. Back to the...
Hello, neighbor. Welcome to the Capture the Magic channel. I'm so glad you found your way here. I've heard that the host, Jared, is a very handsome and charming guy. And you know something? I think you'll enjoy listening to him a whole lot.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. This is a late live stream, and it's all on me. Actually, we normally do these on Wednesdays, and I'm actually traveling tomorrow, and I'll be out of town till Saturday, and then I hit up OG and the guys, and I was like, can you guys do Tuesday? Because actually, I don't even know what day it is half the time lately. So we did a little late one here, although it's not too bad for the Cali guys. I think it's like 8:30. Yeah, it's evening time out there, but there is some stuff to talk about. We had some announcements from Universal today that I don't think surprised anybody. I'm also realizing I need to update the intro because all the Christmas raps by Tupac are out of date at this point, but I will deal with that another time. But real quick, say to the chat, we got Kiki and Luca, we got Kevin Kevon the Go, I think. I may have got that wrong. We got John MK Train. We've got Mark McHugh. We got Michael, Mitch, Rail Fan. These names that they now have the whole handle just gets me. What's up, Brian? We got Brian in here. So thanks for hanging out, guys. We're going to have a good time here. I'm, of course, joined by a great panel this evening. As always, on Theme Parkin', we're joined by Mr. Orange Go 55. OG, thank you for being here. Where can everybody find you over here on the interwebs or wherever else you want to point people to?
Yes, sir, Jared. Always an honor being on Theme Park. We got Tones Poppy with us today. Really excited. We got Theme Park Philosophy, Jose. Yeah, I mean, you can find me right here on YouTube talking theme parks, studio, all that nerdy goodness right here on YouTube and on Instagram, Orange Grove 55. And also, I'm back on X, baby. I've been back on X for about a week now. Yeah. So I'm dabbling again, but you can find me over there, Orange Grove 55.
Yes, sir. So do you hate your life when you're on there now? Because it's just nothing but just complaining and like I feel like I find pockets of things that are kind of fun, but most of the time it's just people complaining is all I see on X, like almost constantly.
Well, it was funny going back to X. It was kind of like that one meme. I think it's like, was it Donald Glover walks in and he has like he's holding the pizzas and like the whole place is on fire. Yeah, that's really what it feels like. You know, going back to Twitter, like, whoa, what the heck? What's all this?
Pretty much. That's kind of what goes there. Also joining here as usual, we have Mr. Theme Park Philosophy. Jose, thank you for being here. And by the way, I want to shout out Jose's latest video. Go check it out on Theme Park Philosophy. It's a very good video, and I like the aspect of blurring in philosophy into all of this stuff. But where can everybody find you? And tell them to go check out your channel.
Thanks very much for the plug. I really appreciate it, Jared. Thanks for having me on. And you guys can find me on my YouTube channel called Theme Park Philosophy. I'm also on Instagram, Theme Park Philosophy as well. But if you want to really catch the content, it's going to be on the YouTube aspect of it. Tomorrow, it's going to be a new episode. I'll just go ahead and do my plug right here. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to philosophically capture why going to theme parks and being emotionally manipulated is not against free will. And we're going to take a look at how David Hume, a 17th century philosopher, its argument for free will is actually compatible with your experience at the theme park. So if you're interested in something like that, go check it out. It'll be on tomorrow. Haven't figured out what time, but just go ahead and make sure that you're notified. So that way when a new video drops, you know it's there and go check it out.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Hey, real
absolutely.
quick, Jared, you said you're gonna update the intro, right? So we
Right.
have Theme Park Philosophy TPP. Now, was it Naughty by Nature who sang that song? You down with OPP? Pretty sure it was Naughty by Nature, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
You can have them singing you down with TPP. Yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah. Listen, I'll have time in the car tomorrow traveling, so I may end up doing some extra. I'll get the intro fixed next week. We'll have an updated intro. That's a good idea, though. I do like that. I like how Jose, like, you bring in all these like deep philosophical, and my videos are just like bad or good. Like, oh, this is like, I just go to the lowest denominator here. That's how you know what? I leave the smart stuff to other people, I suppose. But, and I don't, is this the first time you've been on here, Tones? Or is this the second time? I can't remember.
I believe it's the second time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you came on another time. Yeah, but we got Tones TV back. By the way, check out Tones' channel. I was on a video with him talking about the Stranger Things finale. It does really good stuff, talking about Stranger Things. I think you're going to hit up the new Game of Thrones show. Saw some of that pop up on TikTok. So go check him out. He's joined over here. Thank you for being here. And where does everybody find you, and where can they go sub?
Yeah, we do a lot of movie and TV show content lately. We just did the Stranger Things. We wrapped that up with everyone, and then now we're gonna a lot of Game of Thrones content coming out this year. So we're gonna be covering that on Tones_TV on mostly on TikTok and YouTube. So if you want to go to those channels, go check them out there.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, Tones knows his stuff, and I'm not really big in. I haven't really never gotten to Game of Thrones. I've watched a lot of people review Game of Thrones, so I kind of know what goes on. But I'm actually tempted to watch it because I've heard a lot of people say that Duncan Egg is like their favorite Game of Thrones character. So I'm kind of tempted to maybe hop in on it and see what it's like.
It's definitely different from what we're used to in the universe. We're used, the political side and dragons, and this is this is following someone who isn't a main house like a Targaryen or a Stark. This is someone who doesn't have a name. So it's a very different story. But so far, I'm loving it.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard it's different, but yeah, I'm definitely interested in it. So I think I'll go check that out. But we're also going to talk later on. We're going to talk about Warner Brothers because that's a drama that keeps on going. So we'll talk about that toward the end here. But we do have some news from Universal that we're going to hit up here. We're going to get right into it. And now we go share my screen here. So I don't think, at least on most of our channels, been watching this stuff. It was basically the worst kept secret at Universal that the replacement coaster for Rip Ride Rocket was going to be Fast and Furious, even though many people, at least in my comments, I've not been happy about this. But I do think, as I was saying, I did a video yesterday before this announcement of like, this is going to be Fast and Furious, and this is why it's a good thing, because not only is this coaster Fast and the Furious, although the name of it, which we'll get into, is Hollywood Drift, which is kind of confusing, which that's an interesting topic to delve into. But because of this coaster coming in, Supercharged is closing permanently in 2027, which I think is going to be, yes, that's a cause for celebration on its own. That Vin Diesel will not be hanging off a helicopter and having like, I remember my brother went last summer and I was like, we got to go ride Supercharged, and he's like, is it good? I'm like, no, it's not good. And he was like, why do you have to ride it? I was like, you just got to ride it.
Yeah.
And like the whole time, like you do the pre-show and they're like making fun of their own ride. He's looking back at me like, what is this? And we get off the ride and he's like, how did this come to be? And I'm like, I couldn't tell you. I would love to see a documentary on the process of it, but it's so bad. It's almost like not good. It's memeable, but go ahead.
Oh, it is. It's funny. I a few months ago, Mr. Webb, a good friend, Mr. Webb, went on that Supercharged for the first time. And he was sitting next to me and he was cracking up because Vin Diesel is so much bigger than he really should be compared to the helicopter.
100%.
It's like so out of proportion. It's hilarious.
I'm also convinced that it's in his contract. If you understand the Fast and Furious contracts, they now have it in their contracts where like most of them can't lose fights now. So they keep bringing in new people so they can lose fights. Because you got like The Rock and Vin Diesel, all these ones. I'm convinced in that part where he stands up in the scene, like on top of the truck, that he was filming. He was like, no, Vin's always taller. Like, I guarantee you, he was like, nobody towers over Vin. And you're like, okay, Vin, on the truck. Like,
yeah, I know, 100%.
It's bad. But obviously, the thing now, Amusement Insider, I will say, had a sneak peek of what this coaster track was going to be a couple of months ago. And I think they're dead on about this. So it is going to be Hollywood. Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift. It's also going to have a drifting aspect to this one, just like the one out in Hollywood, but it's going to be a different coaster track because the layout is going to be different. We do know it's Intamin. They didn't have any other details other than there's going to be a 170-foot vertical spike that's going to be over the City Walk area, which I do believe makes it the tallest coaster at Universal Orlando. What do you guys think about this announcement? Were you surprised, or what do you think about the Hollywood Drift naming here going into the New York section?
I did a live show on Theme Park Wizards channel last night with Wizard and Vash Sky, and we were talking about this, right? And it was like, because it was heavily implied with the Universal social media, right? With
The
that
teaser
speedometer.
basically told you it was Fast and Furious without even telling you.
Exactly. So, okay, here's the thing. There's good and there's not so good with this announcement, in my opinion. I love the fact that this attraction is coming to Florida, because I think it looks super sick out here in Hollywood. You guys are gonna love it. Okay. I also think it's cool. It's a clone, but it's not a clone. Like, people are saying on social media, oh, it's a clone. It's kind of not a clone because ours is built on that hill, and you guys obviously don't have that hill. It's gonna be a whole different track layout, and basically it'll just be the ride vehicles and the drifting that's the same. So I don't even really consider it a clone. My only real big issue, though, is calling it Hollywood Drift and it's in the New York area. My OCD, that triggers me like crazy. I call it something else. Call it, Fast and Furious Streets of New York or something else. The name, that irks me. But
I was very surprised to see they call it Hollywood Drift. I was assuming like East Coast Drift or Orlando Drift, but it's interesting. And we were talking about this before. Before we get to that, I have a potential theory on that. But Jose, what do you think about this? Were you surprised by this, or is pretty much what you expected?
This pretty much falls in line with what I expected. I was really hoping for Ghostbusters. However, I think the likelihood of Ghostbusters happening in a roller coaster format is pretty unlikely. Additionally, it's not the best ride system for a movie franchise that is focused on busting ghosts. I think that's going to be more appropriate for that new indoor intimate attraction, for example, that has like 16 layers and is more complicated than Rise of the Resistance. I'd rather see Ghostbusters in that style of a format of ride versus a roller coaster. Although I think, a spin Ecto One would probably be cool, but it'd be very limited. And again, it's Ghostbusters special effects, right? But I do have some comments about putting Hollywood Drift in the New York area. And you actually mentioned it in your video today. And this was actually one of our discussions. And there really is two ways they can go with this. And I think you laid it out pretty plainly. But in my closing first thoughts, I think there's two routes they can go. Mm-hmm. One of them is they keep New York and they just put a Hollywood Drift ride in it, the same way they did with Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. And that's the simplest solution. The other one is a much bigger endeavor, which I think might be the case. I there's no evidence otherwise, but they might be alluding to something bigger and more grandiose.
Yeah, I would classify it currently under conspiracy theory-ish, because therere's no evidence of it. Mm-hmm. It's just like you read into it a little bit and you're like, well, we'll see. But go ahead.
Oh, real quick. The other thing too, this whole thing too about like in New York, but it's a Hollywood coaster, is totally like only the nerds are going to care about that. By the way, like the normies aren't going to get this in the weeds with it. So, and I totally am aware of that, but the theme park nerds are going to debate it. We've seen it on social media, but the normies, they don't care.
I do agree. It's like sight lines. The people that are in the theme park scared. Normies really don't care that much about sight lines. It's just kind of a nerd thing. But Tones, what do you think about this? I don't know if you're up on the East Coast stuff or not, but do you think it looks cool, or do you think are you disappointed by it?
I mean, I'm currently not. I see the frustration though with the whole Hollywood name of it. I mean, I've been on OG's channel enough to know where a lot of the people who keep track of certain rides aren't supposed to be in certain lands, and I know that is a huge thing when it comes to people who go to the parks quite often. So the name doesn't really make sense. What other rides are in that land or in the area that makes it a New York style ride, or like a New York area?
It's in so that section of the park is New York. Then you have Jimmy Fallon race through New York, I think is what it's called technically, right next to it, where this entrance is going to be, which is weird because like I argued, I'm like, okay, you replace one Hollywood ride with another one, but the Rip Ride Rocket entrance is way further down toward the entrance than this one's going to be. So the entrance to this is right in the middle of New York. So the whole thing here, and what I had talked about and Slimer's alluding to, is they could just put it here and call it a day. And I don't think anybody would care outside the theme park people. Or they could look at maybe taking that side of the street and doing something like extending Hollywood Boulevard, perhaps. I see Brian, he works at Universal. He says that Jimmy Fallon isn't going anywhere. I mean, maybe for the time being, but I listen, I don't like the Jimmy Fallon ride, but who knows what else they do with it. But you can see here, this is what Amusement Insider was guessing at the track. And it looks very similar in terms of the drifting aspect of Hollywood, but it is different. That spike here. Now, this is going to be over City Walk. So you'll be looking out over like Hard Rock Cafe and everything right there. And so, you know, if you're on City Walk, you're going to have quite a little nice view of this little spike they've got there, which is kind of unique.
If this is the actual ride, I'm not liking the part where it's in between. No, not even that. Where it's in between two buildings. Right here? I don't know.
Yeah,
it just looks weird.
Yeah, that's where Rip Ride Rocket went through. It's a very narrow footprint that this has. So that's when you were looking at. So we know it's an Intamin coaster, and there's coaster tracks that we're looking at that could have fit it. So once you look at that, there's only so many that would fit this footprint. So I do think they had a pretty good guess here in terms of what it's going to be.
Well, and real quick, I just want to say, Kiki and Luke is making fun of me for my real quick. The other thing too is it's weird timing for this announcement because like Hollywood is getting theirs like in just a couple months, and I feel like here's the thing. I don't mind them getting it in Florida, but I do feel like they should have waited a little bit because now you're kind of kneecapping the Hollywood park because anyone east of the Mississippi now, they're going to hear, oh, it's coming to Florida. We'll just wait for Florida. Where Hollywood could have had those tourism dollars if it was like at least exclusive for like a little bit. And I know Universal does want to have this park in Hollywood a little bit more of a tourist thing. They're building that new hotel and all that. I just feel by announcing it right before the Hollywood one opening is you cut into the tourist potential because now everyone over there is just going to wait.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you're not wrong with that. I wonder if we've talked about before with Hollywood, they're going to do a lot. They're going to add a hotel. That they're going to revamp Hollywood to get more stuff out there. I'm wondering if maybe they just figure Hollywood's not there yet for a demand relief, like people on the East Coast going all the way over there. And maybe why they did it, or the fact that we've talked about before that Universal's looking to make as much money as they can from the theme parks, given where Comcast is. So maybe it's just one of those things where it's like, well, we need to premiere this coaster as quick as we can because we need more things in these parks to do with Epic Universe Online and stuff. But you're not wrong. I would be very curious to know like how many people, are planning on trips out there specifically to check out, the Hollywood Drift out on the West Coast. But yeah, I mean, it like you said, it's not a clone, but they're very similar. I imagine they're going to have the same storyline, which is like a stunt, more of like an homage to the stunt people, which I know people aren't happy about Fast and Furious, but if you look at it if you're going to use Fast and Furious, which they are, it makes less of an impact on a high-speed coaster than it does on a dark ride and things like that. So I think it's a pretty good compromise if you're, and I imagine maybe corporate was like, we need to use Fast and Furious because we own it. You don't have to pay third-party licensing deals. And you're like, where are we going to do this? Just put it on a roller coaster, call it Hollywood Drift, and have a new coaster. Because it will be a good coaster.
Oh,
I have no doubt. I mean, it's going to be, you're going to have the two. You've got Islands of Adventure, you got Stardust Racers at Epic, and then you're going to have this one in Studios Florida. So every park is going to have its own really big time high speed coaster.
Well, and I'm actually really glad there was some rumors of it being possibly Back to the Future. I think Back to the Future should be more of like an everybody family kind of experience, not completely tame. You need thrills when it comes to Back to the Future to some degree, but thrilling like an Indiana Jones adventure or thrilling like a Transformers. This is crazy thrilling, this ride, So I wouldn't want this ride system with Back to the Future. I think that franchise should be a little more family friendly. So I agree. I think Fast and Furious is a great IP for what they're doing. It's theirs. It's very much a Universal thing, So on that front, I'm happy with it for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and the other part that makes this really interesting is the fact with Supercharged going away in 27, which then opens up. So you've got you have Lost Continent that is rumored to be Pokemon. You're going to have the Simpsons area, is my guess, as that's going to change because that contract is probably going to run up, and I don't think that's going to get renewed. And then you got Supercharged here. So you got some stuff that they're probably going to do things with. Any guesses or any predictions or wish list of what you would want Supercharged to be, which is in the San Francisco section of studios?
Well, before we go to Supercharged, I just want to point out maybe some let's call it like theming title difficulties when it comes to naming this ride, because and I understand the grievance of calling this ride Hollywood. This is the same grievance that people had with calling Rip Ride Rocket Hollywood, right, in the New York area. The problem with putting a roller coaster where they put it is that it weaves through sound stages. Sound stages look very much like the ones you would see at a Hollywood production studio. And so if you call something like, let's say, New York this and New York that, but then it weaves through sound stages, then the title of the ride conflicts with the actual scenery. And so you're riding a New York themed ride supposedly, but it's going through, it doesn't make any sense logically. And so there's a conflict there. And so I think that's why they're going with the name Hollywood again, just to avoid that the confliction between the name of the ride and then what you're actually seeing when you're on the ride. I think that'd be very confusing to guess, and it would set the wrong expectation. But Brian was saying that Jimmy Fallon's not going anywhere anytime soon, and I'm not saying that Jimmy Fallon's going anywhere anytime soon. However, if we look on a long enough time scale, 5 to 10 years down the road, the New York area is not really worth keeping around. Keeping the New York land is like keeping Lost Continent because of mythos. The ends don't justify the means. And if the argument is that Jimmy Fallon is or New York area is worth keeping around because of Jimmy Fallon's race to New York, I'm sorry, I got a bridge to sell you. It's just it's not worth it. And so if we're thinking about Universal Creative doing something special with Universal, and again, I'm saying this as an outsider, I have no inside information. There are other people out there, they can give you more accurate inside info. This is just Monday morning quarterbacking. But if they want to really transform this park, I don't see anything wrong with changing the logical structure of the park. Maybe putting New York somewhere else, maybe over by Men in Black, maybe expanding, like you stated, Jared, maybe expanding Hollywood because the Hollywood Boulevard is not very far. They can easily make this an extension of that and make the entire right side or west side of the park kind of like a Universal production studio experience, because you already have several stunts. I mean, this is going to be a ride that's themed based off of the stunt drivers who do the driving for the Fast and the Furious. And then on Hollywood Boulevard, you have Jason Bourne's Stuntacular. Yeah. So, throw in a couple more stunt rides, and what do you have? You have Universal Studios proper, right? The movies, with a couple stunt themed attractions. And I think if it means changing the logical structure of the theme park into either one where it's like split in half, where it's like stunt Hollywood stuff, and then maybe more of the fantastical stuff on the east side of the park, I think it'd be worth getting rid of New York.
Jose, can I ask you a question real quick? Can I just ask a quick question real quick, Jose? What's a stunt themed attraction? Like an example of a stunt themed attraction? Because I'm not familiar.
Waterworld, Indiana Jones Stuntacular, anything where there's stunt actors involved, or if the ride or if the ride is maybe doing some like edutainment as to what stunt actors do on a set.
Well, and I do like how this is an homage, kind of a throwback to what the park originally was, like writing the movies type of thing. I think that's a good move. And it is interesting. There have been rumors and I suppose theories out there that you have an issue in studios you don't have in other parks, which is all those sound stages. And I think that's one reason why Universal did a lot of those, motion simulator rides, because you're limited on space. And there has been people that have theorized potential maps where you could change. I mean, you would take out a lot of the New York section to make room to make actual lands, kind of like Diagon Alley, that you could do in the studio side, but it would require you to change up a lot of that front of the park. Now, I don't know if they're going to plan on doing that, but I think that is a challenge they have, because I think audiences are kind of, I'm not going to say they're done with it. Depends on how you would do it. But I think just a simple motion simulator attraction would not get a lot of hype nowadays. And I think if they went really aggressive, you could see them really change up that New York area to make room. Like if you look at where the Blues Brothers are and things like that, that area over there is not really utilized completely. I mean, you have Finnegan's there, but Finnegan's, interestingly enough, is down almost, I think it's down all of 2026 for refurb, which also puts a little wrinkle into what we were talking about of like, well, I wonder if they're going to do something different because they're planning on doing something in New York or down the line. And it may not be immediate. This may be 5-10 years down the road, but I do agree about Jimmy Fallon, though. I mean, that ride has not, in my opinion, I think it's actually worse than Supercharged. Wow. And I don't think it's aged well. And I think in look where late night television is. in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be even worse. Like, it's not going to be a draw, and they want rides in this park that are going to have demand. So I do think at some point, like you were saying, a long enough timeline, I do think Jimmy Fallon ends up on the chopping block at some point.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because I've actually never been to the Florida Universal. Do you think this would work where you kind of have not a New York theme, but more of like a metropolitan metro set kind of theme, where it's an amalgamation of like a few cities? Would that work in this area? I mean, that would be kind of interesting.
I think the problem with having I think the problem with the original idea is that now with what Universal Creatives is doing with attractions and them expanding their intellectual property outside of Universal Studios to Nintendo and How to Train Your Dragon, the problem with limiting yourself to specific cities in the United States is that you're creating creative walls that the creatives have to now work within, and you're limiting the capabilities of what they can actually do. So by either becoming fantastical, like you said, like changing New York to metropolis theme, but not really giving it a name, maybe just giving it a feel and a vibe that's represented on a map and something that is easily discernible from other lands. When guests are in the parks, they say, "Oh, well, let's go to the metropolis area," something like that.
Right.
I think that's the right way to think about it. If I were Universal Creative, I would feel, I don't know about you guys, I'd really love to hear, but I'd feel limited by just having to work within the confines of cities that have been there since the park opened, but aren't really treated with the same level of, I maybe reference isn't the right word, but like the commitment to the original theme just isn't there. So why commit to this thing that nobody's committing to?
Well, and the interesting thing too is we're kind of dealing with that a lot out here in California with California Adventure, where you theme it to a whole state, but now you have to really expand what that means. That's true. And so you're right. I mean, when you limit to a city or a state, it really like boxes that creativity in, and that's why we're getting Pandora. They're like, "Yeah, screw it."
Well, and that's the point. At some point, and even like Pandora or with this coaster, it's like at some point maybe the creatives go, "Well, screw it. Like we're just going to put it in here." And like that's the thing too. I could see where there may be, and I don't think this would be like within a couple of years, but there can be a long-term plan of like we're going to change this whole area eventually. But in the short term, you need more rides and attractions to get more attention, and then you tackle that part later potentially. Or they just simply, like you were saying, well, you had Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. Now you got Hollywood Drift. It's the same footprint. The entrance can be a different spot. Do normies really care? If it's a great coaster, people are going to ride it. And I think it could be as simple as that, or it could be the more complicated one where you're talking about redoing a bunch of stuff. But I think regardless, I think this will go over well. I think for the normie crowd, if it's a good coaster, the IP is not going to matter. If it's thrilling, it's another thrill ride to put in a park that needs some new things in here, if we're being quite honest. So I think it's a welcome addition to the park. Anything I just want to add about this, because I'm very curious what you guys think about Supercharge in a minute when we talk about that.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, I know it's going to be a different layout in a different situation out there in Florida, but I will say this. I'm not really a coaster guy at all. I'm a meet me at the gift shop when you're done kind of guy. But I will say this. I mean, the videos and the pictures do not do Hollywood Drift justice. It looks insanely cool in person. The track and all that looks so cool. So
yeah, whether your guys is going over part of the escalators out there, like that's kind of wild. Like the way that's built on that side of a hill is kind of like an engineering marvel in many ways how they've done that one. So it'll be like I said, it'll be unique tracks on both of them, similar stories. So I guess it's copycat but with a twist. And sometimes we know Disney and Universal do these things. Sometimes they have copycats, sometimes they have unique stuff. But talking about Supercharged, I think most people are very happy to hear this ride's going away, where Vin Diesel's no longer going to be a giant on a helicopter that's terrorizing people. And like, why did I ride this? What do you have any guesses or wish list what you would like to go in here?
It's a tough one. It's a San Francisco area. San
Francisco area.
For now, yeah.
Here's the thing. Dodging homeless people, like San Francisco normally is. Dodging homeless people.
That was too good. I did not expect you to say
ride,
that,
bro.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't been to San Francisco recently, that's exactly what exactly what San Francisco looks like recently. Crazy.
Yeah, I have a buddy that he goes out to San Francisco and he was like, it's bad. And I was like, I've never been to San Francisco. I've been out to San Diego and places like that, but yeah, I've never been to San Fran itself. But
just another reason to get rid of the city monikers, in my opinion.
I agree, and you bring up a really good point, because if you're talking about if it's going to say San Francisco, it's like, well, what can you really do here that's going to make sense in the San Francisco area unless you just get rid of the city theming and revamp that, which that's a very good question, because there's not much left of it. If you think about it, Jaws is gone. You've got the pier there. You still have the Jaws shark you take a picture with, but outside, I mean, the restaurant's there, but there's not much else here that I would say is untouchable. I mean, you have restaurants and stuff like that. And that's it.
Can I ask just a quick question? When a city themed attraction or a city themed part of the park is it mostly just food, or like what for like San Francisco, by the way, or for example, what kind of attraction would they put for like a San Francisco ride or anything? Like, I don't like, nothing would represent San Francisco as far as a ride, right?
I mean,
like,
originally
what's
you had Jaws in here, and then you had Earthquake, which that obviously makes a lot of sense for San Francisco. Fast and Furious is I mean, it was, at least. I mean, Fast and Furious started with them jacking semi trucks with DVD TVD combo. So now they're like going into space and they're like superheroes. So they put it in San Francisco, which are like, okay, they technically were in LA, but you can make that make sense. I don't really know what they could do here, because I'm trying to think anything. Like, I'm very curious of what their appetite is for like more third-party licensing deals that they don't already have. And then like this gets into, there are rumors of Back to the Future, which is a California. I mean, if you could make it work if you did something like that.
I would go Back to the Future. That's what I would do. And I would do that. But I mean, it depends on how committed they are with really trying to fit something with that San Francisco theme. Or are they just going to bulldoze it and just build something fresh?
I think they're going to bulldoze it.
Well, Brian brings up a point, and this is a rumor that's been out there, is that they could expand Diagon Alley and just eat that into it, which I think is a plausible one, because Diagon Alley only has one ride.
Yeah,
and I was gonna say the show's coming out. They're going to be making it more of a place we can actually look at, as far, because in the movie we barely even saw Diagon Alley, but in the show they're going to be filming there like multiple episodes, so they're going to make it a thing where people will want to see what it looks like too.
You know what, Tones? Speaking of that show, the casting on that show has been A+.
Phenomenal.
Amazing. Like, Harry looks perfect for the role. I mean, they've really done an A+ job with the casting.
Yeah,
I would agree, except for Snape. I mean, if you read the books, you're like,
that's been,
because some of that stuff gets interesting about what Harry's dad did to Snape, and you're like, are you going to keep that in there with that? Because that's going to bring a whole other sort of situation to that story if they do that.
My thing with that whole casting was like for instance, the example you just gave, they can easily do something that doesn't look, it will make it look less, I guess, racist, if you will, and you can do other things and get the point across, in my opinion. But
yeah,
for me, if I thought of it like this: if Snape was casting and no one came for the part that nailed it besides the dude who got this the part, I'm okay with that, because I'd rather have a character seem like the character rather than look like the character, if that makes sense. That's my opinion, or that's my preference when it comes to Snape, and I'd rather him look as feel like he's a Snape rather than look like he's a Snape, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense, because we've seen it happen even with Marvel, where Nick Fury was a white dude in the comics, and then obviously in the MCU he's
there was a comic run where they actually did make Nick Fury black and made him, they basically modeled the character after Samuel L. Jackson, which is why they got him, because they'd already kind of put that into it. But I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's not uncommon for that. Either way, I mean, you're gonna have big shoes to fill with Alan Rickman, because that dude is amazing. Yes. So no matter who is going to play this role, you're already stepping into some very big shoes. But but Supercharged itself, like a lot of people talked about a Harry Potter boat ride or a dark ride, which if you talk about the Supercharged building, it's not that big. And that, I think, is a very limiting thing here, because if you're going to keep the same building, there's really not a whole lot of different things you could do. Because I would love to see Back to the Future, but honestly, Pokemon was a thing that was rumored for a long time going into the Simpsons area. Now, if that's going to Lost Continent, I mean, if you put Back to the Future back where it originally was in like a Hill Valley, or maybe you have a whole retro area. We've talked about this many times. Ghostbusters, Jaws, like these retro properties, I think would do very, very well.
Yeah.
So for me personally, if you're going to do Back to the Future, I say put it in its original home after you get rid of the Simpsons area, and then expand Diagon Alley, whatever you're going to do there. I think that would be a pretty good setup with those two things there, and then you got the new coaster into this park.
Well, and I could honestly vouch firsthand. I went to Fan Fest a few times back in April, and Back to the Future as a franchise is alive and well. People love that franchise. I mean, One Piece was the king. I will say that One Piece, more people had One Piece stuff on for sure, but Back to the Future was not far behind. It's a very popular IP still, so I say put it in there, man.
Well, and One Piece is interesting too. We've had that discussion before about anime coming into the parks on the US, which they've already done it out in Japan. So, I mean, it's very curious what they might do with it. But I just think you have the issue in studios of just so much limited space. And what would they be able to do? And really, how creative could they get if they keep the whole locations? Like, it becomes very interesting.
Yeah. Another thing, too, that I want to add is I think the Harry Potter franchise, it needs like an everybody ride. Because I know technically a lot of them, like, Forbidden Journey isn't technically like a thrill ride, I guess, but it kind of is. Like, your grandma ain't going on that ride. I mean, that thing really kind of whips you around on that Kuka arm. Right. Like, it kind of needs, like, Harry Potter needs like a Pirates of the Caribbean, like a boat ride like that would be amazing. It needs something like that.
Which One Piece? I mean, One Piece is kind of boat related, but Harry Potter. I mean, there are things you could do that could be pretty cool. Like and I don't think studios. I mean, dark rides are interesting. We haven't seen a new dark ride as a main attraction. We've seen it in Pandora as a secondary attraction, because those are the rides that really end up lasting, that are like favorites for decades. Right. But I really am curious if Disney or Universal were like brand new dark ride, what the reaction would be. Because I think a lot of the audiences now just want bigger and more high-tech stuff. And although people may be sort of like initially disappointed, it's one of those things that ends up like E.T. Like E.T.'s gotten more popular the past 5 years, and they haven't done anything different with that ride. It's just nostalgia.
Now, what about Game of Thrones?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about what we talked about, DC rights that apparently Comcast was negotiating with Warner Brothers already.
Right.
If you go grab the Game of Thrones rights, I mean, you could definitely do something there. Now, if you did that, though, you got to get rid of the San Francisco theming, obviously.
Perfect. Deal.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind it at all. Yeah, I'm very curious. And like that would go into more like, do they do third-party licensing deals, or do they go something original? Like, that gets, I know people want to get rid of Supercharged. I'm happy it's going away, but that ride building, I mean, basically Supercharged was the same track that Earthquake was on. They just basically set up as that tram tour type of thing.
It's interesting. Game of Thrones would be really cool. And like you said, Comcast was in the running. They're out of the running now, but they were in the running to buy Warner Brothers. But I'm sure within that negotiation and all that stuff, they built, a relationship, I'm sure, with Zazie and the new team or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're already negotiating the DC rights. Why not go in there and get, Game of Thrones would be, dude, and that would be so perfect also for Epic Universe.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that would be amazing.
I do feel like if you're going to do Game of Thrones, it needs to be a whole land.
Yeah.
Like not just a singular little piece there. You want Westeros or something. You want a whole thing there, and not just like this one little attraction.
And Tones will never leave. Tones will be there. He'll never leave.
I would go broke, dude. I would go broke. Well, my since I've been talking to you guys over the last couple of years, and theme parks in general, the fact that Game of Thrones doesn't have a land somewhere is really fucking mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
And Game of Thrones did its thing. House of the Dragon, it's doing its thing. But there's 2 more TV shows in the works right now, and one just got released the other day. So there's so much Game of Thrones content and Game of Thrones fandom that, one can argue it's the best TV show to ever come out. But the fact that there's no land or no kind of rides that, come from that show is just crazy to me. Insane.
Well, and it's interesting too, because Netflix is likely to acquire Warner Brothers, and they've kind of shown an interest in these like themed, venues like that Netflix house and all that.
Yep.
I'm very curious if they're going to go all in on this park stuff and really push for like, maybe like a Game of Thrones thing at Universal or something like that.
My question to you guys, do you think that's something they can do?
Well, and that's the thing. JTMG brings up a point. Even in 2026, it may be too divisive for families. And the fact that Universal is, in my opinion, they seem to be trying to go more after the family demo than they have in the past, at least. Like, at least making an attempt for it. That would be the only thing I could see limiting them and being like what Game of Thrones is. Even though in a theme park, you wouldn't have that stuff in there, but it would still be there that, they would maybe worried about that. That's the limiting factor that I could see about Game of Thrones, is just the overall like tone and content of that show. And I also wonder if George R.R. Martin probably controls those rights, and he may be kind of difficult to deal with in getting those, but I don't know. I have no clue where those rights lie, if it's with Warner Brothers or it's with him or any of that stuff. But
well, one of the foreseeable issues that I think Universal Studios would have with Game of Thrones is that even though Game of Thrones is considered one of the best shows and highly rated, and it has a very strong fan base, millions of people all throughout the world, you couldn't argue. I think people would have a hard time arguing that it's a 4-quadrant product. Like, it doesn't do merchandise. It's not family friendly. You have to speak English or be very familiar with like Western European mythology in order to like really understand it. And so like in terms of its appeal, it's going to be very limited in that sense. If I were Universal Studios, I were looking at doing a property that is akin to that, kind of evokes that medieval, fantastical era. I would shoot for Lord of the Rings. It's a more proven concept. They have films that have made over $2 billion. If not more at this point. They have a new film coming out later next year, actually, called The Hunt for Gollum. Yeah. And some of the actors are going to be reprising their roles, and it's going to be directed by Andy Serkis and produced by Peter Jackson. I would probably go for Lord of the Rings. Now, if they want to go the Game of Thrones route, there's going to have to be a lot of market analysis and data they need to collect to see how far they want to go with it. Maybe it's maybe they put together a Ren Fair style of entertainment venue for Game of Thrones fans, but a little bit more high tech, obviously. I mean, not just a Ren Fair, but those are that's really the demographic that a lot of Game of Thrones fans are in. And, because they're into the swords and the role play and things like that. And so maybe we would see it at FanFest.
I was going to say FanFest would make a ton of sense for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, test it out in FanFest, run it, see how well it performs. And, if it comes back by popular demand, I think that you pretty much have your answer, that there's a real appetite for Game of Thrones in the parks. Because one thing that we're seeing with Fast and the Furious, and I think this is pretty, I know there's fans and there's people that want this attraction to come to Universal Studios, but the Florida folks on X really don't care. So there seems to be a lack of cross-pollination between the film lovers and the theme park lovers. You say you have some. I'm not saying there aren't any, but the excitement is just not the announcement is just not generating the excitement that you would want if you're Universal Studios, and they're going to want to try to avoid that in the future because they can afford these kinds of blenders. They're expensive.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
So Jose, what you're saying is our chances of getting a tits and wine shirt at Epic Universe are pretty low.
Damn it.
Getting lower every day, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, I would love Lord of the Rings. Don't get me wrong. And like you do, I mean, the new movies coming out, like if those things hit, it's definitely becomes possible. Although if they're going to do it, I mean, there's that huge piece of land out in Epic Universe. I'd say build the whole, like do the Shire. Like I would want a whole thing. I think the thing that gets into this area with Supercharged is just so small, which is why I actually think just talking about all this stuff, I think the most logical thing or Occam's razor is it just gets eaten up, becoming another part of Harry Potter. I think because it's already so small. It's the same issue with Lost Continent, which I was kind of surprised to hear. Although I think they can go back farther there than they could previously because some of that backstage area was cleared out, went to Epic. But, Lost Continent got eaten into as well by Harry Potter. So you have such a small little thing here that it's just like there's not I wonder how many acres that is. It can't be much.
It's so true. And with this new show coming out, Hans Zimmer is going to be scoring the new show. You're going to pass up an opportunity to have Hans Zimmer scores in your park? Get out of here.
Oh,
yeah,
dude. If they did Lord of the Rings, I texted you guys in the group chat on Sunday. It was like rainy and cold. And I got home from church and I was like, Lord of the Rings. I just put it on right before the football game. Oh, dude, it's so good. I forgot. Like, it's been a couple years since I've watched it. It's so good. Although it'd be mostly dudes in there. I don't think there'd be a lot of chicks, which I think, hey, like they can go do the other stuff. Just leave me alone over here in the Shire. Go to Mordor. I would
Did you know
it.
they re-released it in theaters?
They did, yeah, and it did very well too.
Yep, very well.
I mean, I don't even think it's a hyperbolic statement to say I think it's the best trilogy ever made.
Yeah,
you can't argue that one.
It stood the test of time. It's so almost perfect the way in which they did it from the books and everything. So
now, do you think because Star Wars did more than one trilogy, do you think because Lord of the Rings didn't do more, that it's staying where it's at as one of the best trilogies ever?
I think so, Tones. You're onto that because Back to the Future stayed one trilogy, and its reputation is pristine.
Yeah.
Once you start making new content, you always run the risk of messing it up.
Well, and that's my theory as why Back to the Future has aged so well, because it's not tampered with. It's a time capsule. We can always, and I think that's the same with Lord of the Rings. It's like the danger, like you want more, but I would much rather as a fan be left wanting more than being like, I wish you would have left it alone. Because I think Star Wars is a great example of that, where you're just like, you can do all these things that end up messing up how people feel about the original. I guess that's the worry about any new Lord of the Rings. Now, I love the fact that Andy Serkis is involved. I love the fact that Peter Jackson's involved. Trust those guys 100% with that stuff. But yeah, I think with this area in particular, I think it just may end up just being more Diagon Alley. Which
it seems like the audience loves Lord of the Rings. So I'm gonna deviate from theme parks just for a second. So there's rumors that Viggo Mortensen's not going to return for the role of Aragorn. And let me tell you, if they can't get Viggo Mortensen, Aragorn, the king, right? If they can't get him back, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to riot.
I've heard he's not involved. Now I know we do know that I'm drawing his name.
Viggo?
No,
Ian McKellen.
Yes, Ian McKellen. He is back.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to do Aragorn without him. Even if you got to DH the guy, I don't care. Put a wig on him.
Put a wig on him.
You got to do it. You got to get him involved somehow. I don't know, but
putting wigs on guys. What are we talking about again?
Put wigs on dudes. It's called. I think the classy name is toupee. You know, they've come a long way in the technology. I've heard back in the day. Send him to Turkey. Get one of those hair. You know, get those hair plugs going.
Well, it was actually funny. And Hayden Christensen, I think recently in an interview said that in the prequels, that was not his real hair.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
It was a wig. Yeah.
That was a good wig, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Couldn't even tell, but yeah, we'll see what happens here. I mean, it's exciting stuff nonetheless. And I think you're talking at a 5-year time span. There's going to be a lot of new stuff coming to Universal on top of Epic Universe. So, I mean, we've talked about it before. I mean, the theme park wars here are just going to continue because Disney's building what they're building, Universal. Now, what's going to be interesting is how quickly do these things get built, because Universal builds quick. I kind of think the new coaster could open. It says 2027. I think they would want to shoot for the spring. Now, I don't know if that's feasible, but that's what they would probably want to shoot for. And then we'll see what happens with Supercharged. But it's exciting stuff nonetheless.
Oh,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say real quick. Can we bring up Red 6 Down? Or Red 6 Down? A dune ride? Oh my lord, that would be beautiful.
That would be sick.
Dune would be cool.
Riding a worm? Oh my god, that'd be sick.
Well, this is why I wanted Comcast to get WB. I mean, it would just be endless material. Yeah. Ugh.
Which it could still happen. We'll talk about it later, but that whole thing, I mean, it could very well get denied and go back to, you know, I've always said the whole time, I think it makes way more sense to auction off these IP pieces versus somebody buying the whole studio. Because then, like, if Comcast really wants Lord of the Rings, like, they're going to treat that like their baby. Versus you just get the whole kit and caboodle and you're just like, well, it's like a toy box full of toys that, like, you don't, you know, if you got all the toys in the world, you don't value any of them compared to, like, we spent how many millions of dollars to get Batman and we're going to give Batman awesome treatment. Like, you know, I would personally, I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be my my preference there, personally speaking. But anything else you guys want to add before we move on, talk about the Disney CEO stuff?
No, I think I got everything out.
All right. Well, there's not much on this. I'm not going to bring up a story. Basically, Disney said they got their earnings call next week, and we knew that they were going to be naming a new CEO sometime in 2026. And apparently, they are naming the new CEO at this next earnings call. is there anything that has changed your mind in the past couple of months that is not going to be Josh DiMauro, or anything be different?
Now, real quick, I just want to say thank you to Kiki and Luca for gifting a OG55 membership. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Kiki and Luca. Yeah, so nothing's changed. I actually had a conversation on my channel with Mr. Drew, the Disney dude, and we talked about this, and we were both under the in agreement. It's going to be Josh. Now, there is a possibility though that it could be Josh and maybe, like we talked about, like a co-CEO thing, and maybe Dana's part of that equation, or maybe it's Josh and Dana's like the president or something like that. But yeah, Josh is part of this thing no matter what, no matter how you slice it, whether it's just him or whether it's a dual role, it's going to be Josh. And we'll see how he does. But supposedly they're going to announce it next month, probably on that earnings call. Yeah. So I don't know.
What's his position? What's his position right now?
Josh is president of the experiences, which is like parks, cruises. They even
merchandise too.
Yeah, products, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, even like the Epic Game stuff, right? Jared, I believe, is Josh.
It is Josh. I don't know if that falls under experiences, but it is headed up by him. So I'm not really sure if that falls under experiences or not. But either way, yeah, he's definitely involved in that. And real quick, Kiki and Luca, thank you. Gifted one membership to Capture the Magic, as well as over here in Tones.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Kiki and Luca. I appreciate you.
And probably as soon as Theme Park Philosophy, we get him monetized, getting to 500, we'll be getting some gifted memberships for Theme Park Philosophy as well.
Go send him a follow, guys. Go do it right now.
By the way, I forgot to mention in the beginning, all these guys' channels in the description. Go subscribe, check them out. All good stuff there. When it comes to this, and we talked about before also, I think in the last live stream, a lot of these moves are very interesting around the company happening, like Kathleen Kennedy stepping down. You got the Imagineering seeming like it's trying to have a rehab. That Wall Street Journal article was very interesting of how it painted basically Chapek as the bad guy. And even really, they didn't go after Iger, but it didn't paint him in a great picture either. And then Josh is the one that was approached Bruce Vaughn and revamping this stuff. I do get the feeling that we kind of have the beginnings of like a DiMauro PR push before the official announcement. And the real question I have is, Iger is supposed to go away in end of 2026. Does Josh, do you think at this point, like I would assume Disney has known he's going to be the CEO, again, presuming the 1% chance he's not. He's known this for a while. Do you think that he needs a full year under Iger to show him the ropes? Or I would assume they've known this for a while. Like, I wouldn't think there's that big of a learning curve, but I don't know. Maybe there is. But I think that'll be the really interesting part about this is Iger during this transition.
Well, yeah, it would have to be the thing that I think would be the most learning curve for Josh would be the studio stuff. But that depends, though, because if it's the co-CEO thing and they have a studio person with him, I mean, he can basically start tomorrow and he's good, Right. If it's just him though, there's going to be a little bit of that studio stuff, especially right now. There's a lot going on with streaming and AI and all that good stuff. So I think there needs to be a little bit of that for him. But I mean, we'll see. I'm kind of wondering though how much he's already kind of running.
That's what I'm wondering too. I get that because by the way, Iger has been radio silent. I haven't heard anything from him, and usually he's out there talking. Josh hasn't really been either, I suppose. He hasn't really been out. I mean, other than those articles are out there, but it's kind of been a little bit of like a low-key little calm before the storm type of situation out there. Yeah. Well, then you talk about the Galaxy's Edge changes. I have a feeling, I mean, I would be curious how much Kathleen Kennedy really controlled that, or was that Josh coming in and the timing was just coincidental and being like, we need to make, give the people what they've been asking for here.
It's interesting you say that because Drew, the Disney dude, actually thinks that it had more so to do with Kathleen Kennedy than it did Josh DiMauro.
Yes.
And I think it's very interesting he came to that conclusion as a theme park person, because in this space, we generally think of things in theme park, in a theme park capacity and the players within them. And so introducing Kathleen Kennedy as a deciding factor, I think is really thinking outside of the box in this particular case. But I also heard Star Wars Theory also make the suggestion that it was Kathleen Kennedy or Dave Filoni who brought back the original trilogy to the Star Wars land. So I think there's definitely something to it, at least a collaboration at the very least between Lucasfilm and Josh DiMauro, whether it's Dave Filoni or Kathleen Kennedy. I don't think we'll probably ever know, or we won't know until Dave Filoni is, official and Kathleen Kennedy has stepped out from Lucasfilm completely. But I definitely think it was a collaboration between the studios, because you got to remember the studios, even though they don't crack the whip as far as what rides, to borrow a term from Jay Sure, even though they don't crack the whip as far as what rides go into the lands and what movies are basing them off of, there's a heavy amount of collaboration, and they use a lot of Hollywood power and suggestion and influence to try to push their latest and greatest products into the lands. And Kathleen Kennedy, even though she wasn't the final decision for Rise of the Resistance or for the sequel trilogy to be the core story of the new Star Wars land, she had a lot to do with it. I think you'd be hard pressed to convince anybody otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, she clearly wielded a lot of power because, I mean, I would be hard pressed to find a studio exec that has that bad of a track record that was never under fire. Like, she just, if that woman was, and I said the whole time, like, everyone was saying, oh, she's going to get fired. Like, she will leave when she's good and ready, and they will tell you how great she was. And even her exit interview, like, she threw Ryan Johnson under the bus, said he got spooked, and he was like, no, I didn't. Like, it's just so much stuff. And again, going after the fan base yet again. It's just one of those things where I think a lot of it, I mean, there's jokes, and I've made jokes about, like, she's got dirt on everybody, but I really think it probably came down to, she probably knows everybody in Hollywood. She has all these connections, which gave her a lot of power. And they also didn't want the optics of probably firing the first female executive or head of a studio. They didn't want that either. But if she was the one limiting this, I mean, I'm glad it's done, at least on Disneyland, but it seems like it's just being really hard-headed, which seemed like what Lucasfilm kind of ended up doing. But I would be curious to know, what those inner workings, maybe we'll find out when Josh Duhamel writes his book called What a Journey or something 20 years down the road, I suppose, down there. But
it's gonna be Josh, though. I mean, I'm like 90%.
I agree. And I agree with you. I could definitely see Dana Walden having not a co-role, but like a very upgraded role to essentially, like, his weakness is going to be the studio, where she essentially runs the studio, where he might have some light, like, he's obviously going to have influence there, but I could definitely see that, especially James Gorman's heading this up. And that's exactly what he did. I believe it was JP Morgan, where they gave raises and promotions to everybody that didn't get it to keep them all on board. I could totally see that being the case.
Well, yeah, and Bob Iger still has influence, and Dana is Bob's girl. He loves Dana. Like, that was the one person from Fox that Bob was like, I mean, if it was up to Iger, she would be the CEO, 100%.
I agree if it was up to him.
Yeah, but so I do think he does have some sway, with the board and stuff still and all that. And I'm sure he's probably got reassurances. Yeah, Dana's not going to leave. We'll give her this, we'll give her that, and all this good stuff. I do want to say also real quick, a big shout out to Vinton for gifting a membership to OGPD5, and also Nessie, 5 memberships to Tones Poppy's channel. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
Thank
you, Ness. Thank you, Ramon.
Generosity. Thank you guys for being here. I know it's late, at least on the East Coast here, so definitely appreciate you guys being here, and all the super chat, well, not super chats, but the gifted memberships. Greatly appreciate all that. As always, it's not required, but definitely appreciated for sure.
Absolutely. I do have a quick question for you guys, because especially OG, because we did an episode a while back about potential suitors for the CEO position, and I remember the idea of who was going to be, who the candidates were, and I had brought up Kevin Feige at the time. Obviously, I don't think he's even a candidate at this point in time, but what are the chances of studio people potentially getting a nod for the CEO position? If any, if there was one, who would that be?
Well, the studio person, I mean, if it's going to be a studio person, almost certainly Dana, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Feige, I don't think he's there for, I don't think he would get it.
I don't even think Feige would want it either.
No.
Yeah, it's a little corporate. It's a little corporate for him, but
I would say second would be Bergman outside of Dana.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the two, Alan Bergman and Dana Walden, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now it's interesting with Josh, though. I'm curious with Josh, though, because he is a pretty young dude, and it does seem like he has vision.
Yeah.
So he might look. Here's the thing with these executives, we really don't know until they're in there. Like Michael Eisner was not a theme park guy. He came from Paramount,
but he was a weatherman.
And Iger was a weatherman for ABC. So they come in there and they do their thing. But Eisner and Wells, they had no theme park background. And when they got in there that first decade, crushed it with the theme park stuff. So
and that's where I'm of two minds. And I think you've said the same thing. And I know you have as well, Jose, where it's like, I have a lot of criticisms about the Disney parks, especially the past 5 years. A lot. Now, I've had the questions about, has this all been D'Amaro's doing, or like we kind of got behind the scenes of that Imagineering article where you have a lot of these C-suite overreach, and I could see a situation where they're definitely pushing for charging more in the price hikes and things of that nature. So even with all that going on and not thinking that Josh necessarily has been the best for the fan or the guest experience in the parks, he's made a lot of money, but I actually think he could potentially, like you're saying, won't know until he gets in there, but I actually think he could be a good CEO because he has vision. He has that suave about him. I don't know if that's a word, but he's got that whole like thing about him where he's good with people. I talked about that, like meeting people, talking to them. Like he's got that whole thing.
Swag.
Yes. That's what I mean.
That je ne sais quoi.
Swag or Riz, as a kid call it.
Riz.
I'm going to make it work. I'm going to keep using it over time. But like
Josh the Rizzo.
Yeah, he's got the Riz, as the kids say. Just hit me now. That was terrible. Don't I'm going to cut that out. But like, I do feel like he has those things. Plus, that I've said many times, no clue about his politics. And if you're talking about Disney wanting to get out of a lot of this stuff they've got involved with, he's got a chance at a reset. And everything we heard there's been so many articles written about all this, and every single one of them have said, everybody in Disney says he conveys a vision very well. And he has a shot. I mean, we'll see. And I think the fear is that he would just be an extension of Iger. But I feel like ego gets involved and you're like, I want to set my own path out here. And at some point, what changes he might make, I'm very curious. And I think that would answer the question of how much the park changes were him or how much of that was the C-suite overall.
Sorry, OG, go ahead.
Oh, no, real quick, I just want to say too, oh shit, no, I forgot. Never mind. Go ahead, Jose. Sorry about that.
You lost his suave.
I lost my rib.
you get above 40 and forget what you're saying every 5 minutes. But one of Josh's strongest characteristics and one of his best leadership attributes is his level of involvement with Walt Disney Imagineering. Yeah. He's heavily involved with not just with WDI. Of course, he has to be because he's the chairman of experiences, but he's also heavily involved in the video games and the cruise lines as well. And I'm just wondering, guys, and let me know what your thoughts on this are. With his deep level of involvement in experiences, does Josh even have the luxury to be able to manage the studio side? Because I don't think that Josh is just automatically going to, elevate himself above his current level of involvement that he's been so successful at doing. And by successful, I mean like the actual physical numbers. Like if you look at experiences, actual revenue and their actual profit over the last 5 years, essentially since, COVID ended, it's been on an upward trajectory. It's going to continue to go up even with shorter attendance numbers. But he's been extremely successful. I think his level of involvement has something to do with that. He has a lot of the employees underneath him. He has a lot of confidence in them. I don't see Josh parting from the way his current management style to manage something is as passionately. And I think that he's probably going to outsource it to Dana and say, hey, look, I need you to co-captain the ship with me. I can't do it by myself. That's my opinion. That's just from me seeing Disney as a company that was built on co-management. But what do you guys think?
I think you're absolutely correct because he's definitely going to delegate to some degree with that. I think, and we know she's going to get an expanded role. That was in the article or recently in a article. I don't know if it was in Wall Street Journal, it was one of those articles where they were talking about how Gorman wants to, keep people, like you were saying, Jared. So she's going to have an expanded role. And so he will lean on her. And really, a CEO delegates. I mean, really, that's kind of what they do. They shouldn't be day to day.
Yes, I was going to bring up that exact point. A good CEO delegates like that. And I could totally see Josh doing that, especially like as he's learning more about it. Like the last thing you'd want to do is go into something you're not really sure, be like, well, I'm going to plot myself in the middle of all of this right now. And you're going to, like just trial by fire. So I I don't feel like he has a personality type to do that. He seems very like politician like in terms of how he like maneuvers. And I could see him being like, this is a weakness of mine. I know it is. So I'm going to lean on Dana. And then that's going to give him brownie points inside the company as well. And that's what I could see, at least in the first part. I could see him doing that. And really, if you think about creative end, the more, in my opinion, most CEOs staying out of the creative process, obviously you want to cast a vision and say, this is where we want to go. But being involved, like Iger was like looking at dailies on video, on movies. I'm like, why?
Yeah, that's
like,
ridiculous.
You know, that, and even Favreau had talked about that at one point, like Bob Iger's giving him notes. I'm like, what? Like, why? Like that shouldn't be the role of a CEO, in my opinion. I think that should be delegated to people that are actually making the movies and the shows. And do you trust them or not? And if you don't, get people in there that you do. Right. I feel like Josh is the guy that could do that, because I agree with you, Jose. I could totally see him delegating more on that front.
He's more, yes, I agree. I think he is a good delegator, but he's more of like a Walt Disney when it comes to his delegation style. I think Bob Iger is almost strictly a delegator. However, Josh D'Amaro seems more like Walt, where he is a delegator, but he's very hands-on in the creative process as well, almost to the point in which you would think he's still running, doing two jobs, wearing two hats at the same time. And I think Josh's style mirrors Walt's a lot in that sense. And so I think because of that, there's a high likelihood, not only is Dana Walt going to get a more prestigious, more important role within the company, I think he might have a conversation with Dana saying, like, look, like, I know obviously with the board's permission as well. And I think Bob Iger is probably going to influence the decision as well, but I think she might end up being a co-CEO. I think even though Josh is obviously coming out as the front runner of all this and everybody's talking about him and not Dana, I think that just because of his managerial style, and honestly, I think he's just more interested in just natural inclination towards what he gravitates to. I think that I would lean on somebody else to run half the other company.
It's definitely not a zero potential. I mean, who knows? I put more of a likelihood on him, like a 1A, like 1B. Like there's still that hierarchy where Josh would be above her, but she's still going to have this. I kind of feel like that could be where it goes. But I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, you look at Lucasfilm, they just did a type of thing. And Disney's done in the past. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely possible. I suppose we will find out. But I would assume the way Disney operates, they would have kind of put more feelers out there. They kind of tend to do that, like leaks. But I think they actually come from Disney to kind of see, like, how do people react to stuff? I feel like we would have seen more of that, but who knows? It could be wrong.
No, I did want to mention. I remember what I was going to say. I do want to mention that you're right, Jared. Not a lot, but many park decisions lately have not been fantastic. Right? There's been there's been issues for sure. I will say this: I don't think that really prevents Josh from getting the job, only because I think any executive you pick is going to have blemishes on their record. I mean, you pick Dana, she's got issues. She's actually got a lot of issues. She's been putting out a lot of fires lately, Yeah. So anyone you pick is going to have. Bergman has issues, right? I mean, his whole division hasn't really, Mm-hmm. So I think for the slate of people we got, Josh probably has the least amount of blemishes. So, mm-hmm. And Kiki and Luca brings up a great point. Is Josh more feminine than Dana? What do you think?
He might be prettier. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, he's, I imagine Josh smells. I don't remember what he smells like. He seemed like a guy that would just smell like $1 million. You're just like, I don't know what cologne that is, but he smells great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Real quick, I do have a question for you guys. If you could educate me, most of the people that are up for this position are currently in the Disney company as we speak, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there
4 that are all in the Disney company?
Is there anyone that's outside of the company at the moment that they were eyeing at any point, or maybe wanting to bring in?
The EA CEO was one. I think something Wilson. I can't remember his first name. James Wilson, maybe. But they were looking at him. And the one I've said is a dark horse is Kevin Mayer and Tom Staggs, who currently run Candle Media. They were in the running last time. And whenever Chapek got named, they left and started their own company. But really, there hasn't been much. I mean, you've heard things here and there, but they've made it known that the finalists are people, at least that they were telling publicly, were inside the company.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's all inside mostly, But this another thing that might happen would be Josh, and then an outsider coming in as the co-CEO. Now that would be interesting.
That would be very interesting. I mean, I'm sure you can make bets on this on like Cashy or something like that about who's going to be the CEO. It's very interesting. Like I'm very curious, like if they're going to pull something out of left field and all this stuff, but who knows? I do think, I mean, more than likely it's going to be Josh. I think at this point, I've always rather would have had somebody outside the company, but I'm curious about Josh. I will put it that way. I think he potentially could do a good job. And see which way he would go with it.
You know, Disney has an opportunity right now to do the funniest thing ever.
Bring back Bob JPEG.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah, exactly. Bring JPEG back. I'm back. No. This would be even funnier than that. So everyone's all excited that Kennedy left Lucasfilm.
Oh no!
It's right.
Just oh my gosh!
She can even do her announcement in the Jar Jar Binks Mizabak.
I love it, dude. I freaking love it.
Hilarious.
Although Cassandra says he needs to put out a fragrance, I could see it like Diamaro, like just use the name there as like
I'm sure it's one right now. I'm pretty positive.
It probably is. Yeah. Just got an ad with him just staring off into the dark, like those like whatever those Calvin Klein ads that made no sense.
Have you guys ever seen that cream commercial during the Super Bowl with what's his name from Superbad?
Oh, what's his name? Started with a J. Now I'm told.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah,
yeah.
Jonah Hill. Yeah.
No, the other guy.
McLovin.
Nah, the other.
Oh, Michael Cera.
Michael Cera. Yes, Michael Cera. Yeah, look up the cream commercial with Michael Cera. It's hilarious. It's an actual product too. You can actually buy it.
Okay.
I think it's the current shampoo I use. It's called Cream.
Ooh.
Yeah, Cream. That's it.
Yeah.
I use a nice
really good, by the way,
on my beard. Yeah.
Yep.
I like that. All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. I kind of tend to lead. I don't think we're going to be surprised, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. Listen, next week whenever they announce it. What day is it going to be on? Earnings calls are Thursdays.
February 2nd. That is Monday, I believe.
That is Monday. Okay. So yeah, if whatever they announce, we'll talk about it because I think that'll be interesting. Nonetheless, I think whoever they name there, but. All right. Well, this is, like I said, we got one more story we're going to hit because I got to get up at 5 a.m. So we're going to talk about this. And I'm very curious what Tones thinks about this because the ever going saga of Warner Brothers and who's going to end up with them has taken some twists and turns. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter talking about the Warner Brothers fight is going to get uglier. I think the Paramount offers have been denied 10 times now. I don't know. They're like the guy that will never quit asking a girl out to the point that they're just going to like tire her out and be like, fine, just take it. I'm tired of this. But apparently, and Tones, you may know about this. I'm not going to read this whole article, but basically the rumor out there or what's been speculated is that Netflix is going to amend their offer to increase it more, which then a lot of people think that Paramount is then going to increase their bid more for Warner Brothers. Going back and forth. Then you also had a statement by President Trump himself that said essentially like it's going to be tough sledding to get this approved. And I think that's another question out there outside of if it's Warner Brothers or if it's Paramount or Netflix about going through government regulations. Where do you think this ends up, or do you have any idea of how this is going?
It's going to be Netflix. Go ahead, Tones.
No, I was just going to say when it comes to all of this, I just think the most hilarious part about everything is how many times Paramount's been shot down. They've been shot down so many times. It's unbelievable. But Netflix, we've discussed this plenty of times. Netflix, it is concerning because of the amount of information that they've released about what they're going to do with movies and theaters and how long it's going to be in the theaters and all that stuff. I do think that they have a point when it comes to movies being in the theaters too long. They do have that kind of point, but at the same time, the whole streaming service of Netflix, or take Netflix aside, for instance, if there's a Disney movie, they put it out for a certain amount of time, and then they put it. They even put it on streaming services before it's even released from theaters, which I think that's the whole reasoning of why it's so going to the movie theater or the theatrical experience is dying, because we could just see it online. You just got to pay an extra $30-$40 to watch it at home, and it's easier for everyone to do so. But Netflix is, I think, going to win it. I think Warner Brothers is just going to keep shooting. I mean, they've put out so many bids. They put out so many bids for this company, and they're just like, no, we don't want to sell it to you. And I'm wondering why. I feel like there's something they're not telling us, but Netflix has to. If Netflix doesn't get it, it's because it was denied by a higher entity, in my opinion. I hire like the president or someone else, because if it's not Paramount, it's going to be Netflix for sure.
Yeah, I think unless Paramount just decides like they just put everything behind, make an offer so high even Netflix wouldn't match it. I mean, that's the only scenario I see, because I do think it's pretty clear that Warner Brothers wants to go with Netflix.
Yes.
I think all this is going to, I agree. I think it ends up being with Netflix at the end of the day. I think my guess would be throughout all this that Zaslav's kind of telling Sarandos, like, hey, this is what you kind of need to do here. This is what they're doing. That's the impression I get. I think all this would hinge, whether or not it's Paramount or it's Netflix, all this is going to hinge on Netflix is going to argue that YouTube is the biggest streamer, and therefore that doesn't make it a monopoly, because if you include Netflix or you include YouTube in this, I believe the streaming share that is Netflix is like 9% or something. It's very low compared to if you exclude YouTube, this would give them like 35% or something. Like, it gets very high. So I kind of actually think that this won't get approved, because I think that if you look at the Disney and Fox merger, there's usually concessions that have to be made on these things. And the one that with Disney and Fox was that Disney had to let go of the regional sports networks that were associated with Fox. There's nothing in this that I could see where they could concede to make the regulators happy, because all this is going to hinge on the streaming side if that argument falls flat. And I think that's the thing about this, where I can see all this going through, and at the end of the day, you're back at square one after like a year and a half. I think that's a pretty realistic scenario. And that's before you even get into, I think Hollywood's like, they don't like Paramount, but they also are terrified of what Netflix might do, because they're changing their tune now. But like you were saying previously, they've basically said they don't think the theater model works in the long run. I kind of think that's what ends up happening here. I think Netflix wins the bidding part of this, but I just don't see this getting to regulators. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, another thing that I want to bring up to you guys, I'm very curious what you think about this too, is we joked a little bit earlier about how Paramount has, made like 15 bids on this thing. And I feel like Paramount, I don't know, I think it's important when you're dealing in like the industry or business in general, that you maintain a good reputation.
You don't want to seem desperate.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like Paramount is kind of doing like scorched earth. Like, we don't care how we look, how needy we look, how shady, or we're going to do whatever we got to do. And I don't think that's a good strategy. I mean, look how Comcast acted. They just pulled back, and they, you know what I'm saying? I think that, I don't know, in the business world, I think there is something to be said with how, taking the loss and knowing when to walk away.
Yeah.
And I think Paramount isn't doing themselves any favors by acting like this. Now, maybe I'm overreacting to that, but what do you guys think?
You're not wrong. I mean, I also forgot to mention Paramount tried to sue Warner Brothers over this as well. I think that got thrown out. So they're not only making all these bids, they're taking it to court. Like, they are definitely the guy. Like, if it doesn't seem like you were saying that they're worried about how they look in all of this, they're just like, we want this. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, especially in those type of circles. I would imagine perception is a big thing. I get the impression the Ellisons are kind of outside operators, though, so they're not really in that sort of like Hollywood bubble. Maybe.
Do you think that Paramount is maybe using Drake's PR team? Not kidding.
My question to you, OG, is why would it essentially matter what they look like? What would negatively impact Warner Brothers Paramount rather? How would it negatively impact them as far as like going forward, because they put in so many bids?
Well, I just think when you're in the industry or any kind of business, and your reputation is kind of everything, and for future deals and partnerships and what have you, if Paramount goes scorched earth, which it looks like they kind of are, you kind of like, the industry is like, I don't really want to work with them. you kind of make this reputation for yourself that like, you know what? Nah, I'm good. It's it's a little too much, which is it's risky, and that's the risk I think they're facing right now.
So I suppose the argument to that could be the position Hollywood is in. Right. And Paramount has made lots of boasting about they're going to do like 30 plus movies a year. They want to come in and do different types of movies. I mean, they could look at it as like this is for all intents and purposes, it's a dying industry. It's at least contracting, and trying to put new blood into this. I think that could be their perspective. But I mean, obviously, I don't think they care. I mean, you're talking about billionaires competing with billionaires. It's just it's the whole world. It's like an episode of Succession. I've said all along, whoever wins this should turn around and make a movie about this whole process, because I think it'd be very interesting about some of the behind the scenes stuff on this.
And you also have to one last thing. You also have to think like, why is Paramount making this push and so aggressively and continuing to do it? Like, do they know something that everyone else is just in the dark about?
Well, and that's the other thing too, Tone. That's a fantastic point, where it almost makes you think like, what's going on over there at Paramount? Like, do they need this to go through for some reason? Like, what's going on? It just no, it doesn't smell right.
Yeah. Well, you think about Paramount streaming, it's not strong. I mean, it's one of the weaker ones out there. It's not as weak as Peacock, but I think they're definitely trying to make a splash. And I think they feel like with the IPs that they would have with Warner Brothers, they could definitely do a lot with them. Now, we still don't know with Paramount what type of quality of stuff they're going to produce. That's a big question out there, because they're unproven. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, maybe they just are worried about what Netflix would do in terms of not only streaming, but like if you are worried about the movie industry, which I would agree with. Kiki and Lucas said, whoever takes over WB, we lose. I actually agree with that, because I think more competition is better. I don't want to see Warner Brothers go away. And I think you're probably going to see more of these, though, because unless something changes in Hollywood, this is kind of what's going to end up happening. And I think people predicted this years ago, that you would just start seeing streaming services merge. And I still think that's a possibility. Look at Peacock. Unless they get some sort of big show on there or something, like, I don't even know if Peacock's around in 5 years.
Can we say Peacock on YouTube or no? Okay.
It depends on.
They won't notice it. Yeah.
It depends on how. It depends on how you say it.
Yeah. There you go.
The pauses are very important when you're saying.
Exactly.
But when it comes to Paramount, I think the reason the Paramount is, to answer your question, I think the reason the Paramount's trying to desperately get Netflix is because the market capitalization is behind all the other streaming services, number one. But because of that, because of the lack of offerings, and because of how poorly the studio has been doing the last couple of years, basically since Ellison's have taken it over, they're just not putting out high quality content, and so they're looking to buy their way out of this problem. The problem is the Paramount just doesn't have the cash flow. Like, if you look at their actual profits quarter over quarter, it's thin. I mean, I think they're like sub $1 billion in some quarters, which is terrible for a studio. And if you look at the 2026 lineup, it's a weak lineup compared to all the other studios. They're going to get crushed this year. And so they're desperately trying to buy themselves out of this situation. And what makes it even worse is that Dave Ellison, the other company that owns Oracle, their market share has dropped, I think, like 40 to 50% over the last 3 months. So that company's hemorrhaging its market cap. So Netflix or Warner Brothers is looking at Paramount's offer and saying, where are you going to get the money from if your dad's not willing to put up the funds, because you're not going to get it from Oracle. They're not doing too well. 50% drop in market cap over 3 months is not a good indicator of a healthy run company. And then Paramount, they're trailing all the other studios. They don't have a good 26 lineup. Their market cap had dropped $10 billion before the Skydance merger. So where's the confidence there? If you're a Warner Brothers executive, you're the board, and you're trying to make a decision. Meanwhile, Netflix is crushing it. And so, yeah, Paramount's desperate. Obviously, the reason they're desperate is because they're in a falling situation. They got to buy their way out of it while they still have the capital to do it. But again, it's not really coming from the company. I mean, they're betting on Oracle to be the financier, the backer for the merger. They're not doing good. It's a big mess. And a lot of
Warner
Brothers doesn't like it.
Well, a lot of Oracle's evaluation is based on AI, and I actually tend to agree. There's an article talking about open AI is hemorrhaging money, and people are saying that they may be going out of business. And there's a lot of questions about, is the AI stuff a bubble, which Oracle would be in that because they're one of the bigger ones playing in AI right now.
Yeah, their PE right now is like 40x, way overvalued.
Oh, I
so
think
you could
they lost like they've already burned through like $12 billion. Open AI, like the
crazy.
losses in like one quarter. At one point, it was like 12 billion.
I heard the Sora. I just recently saw it today. Actually, I heard the Sora usage has been like just tanking. Like it was a big thing, and now everyone's not even.
Well, because everyone started suing him to limit what you could do with it, and then now you can't really do much with it. And Remy's right. Google is winning the AI war. I mean, Apple recently said they're going to start using Gemini, and Disney's with OpenAI, which may end up being a bad move because if OpenAI ends up going down the toilet, there goes the $1 billion they spent there. But that does play a role in this because with Hollywood and AI, I mean, there's a big fear there. And by the way, a very interesting perspective on this. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were on Joe Rogan Experience the other day, and Ben Affleck had some really good points about AI. Like, I think people were surprised. They're like, "Is Ben Affleck smart?" And I was like, "I think he's pretty smart. Like,
he's
maybe
fucking
not with women, but I mean, in terms of like, he maybe." But there were some interesting points about like where this goes and in AI usage. There's just a lot of question marks around entertainment in general. I mean, the same things with Disney, where they're just very much in this transitional mode of like, what's this look like in 5 to 10 years? And I agree with Jose. I think Paramount is trying to leverage what they can now to hope that this can get out of the issue they're in. But I don't think a lot of these studios are looking at really bright futures as it looks right now, unless something drastically changes.
It's tough out there for sure. Absolutely. I was mad at Paramount when I was talking to Wizard last night on his channel, and supposedly Ninja Turtles were supposed to be at FanFest this year.
Oh,
and that deal fell through, and I'm like, gosh, dang it,
dude! I've been mad at Paramount because I hate the modern Ninja Turtles. Like, I was the biggest Ninja Turtles fan as a kid, and then the ones they've ever done since then, I can't stand them.
And they just canceled like 2 projects of Ninja Turtles or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they did. Yep,
they
absolutely did.
Like, I'm telling you right now, I know where I got my preference in women was. That was from April O'Neil when I was a child. I'm telling you right now, it fits perfectly. But like,
love it.
It's interesting. Hold on. Brian here says, Jared just got off the phone with my brother who works for Disney. He told me to tell you that Bob Chapek is coming back as CEO for a second.
I knew it.
Breaking news. I'm going to be putting out a video right after this, and if it's not right, I'm going to take it down, act like it never happened.
Thank you, Brian 8928. Thank you.
That would be the
you heard it here first.
I would laugh so hard if that ended up being true. That'd be great. But
that would be
in terms of this, I mean, I do think, like I said, to wrap this up, I think Netflix ends up in this stage with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think this gets approved. I think they basically put out. I mean, not only President Trump, but like even some of the regulators have even said, like, one of them had a quote of saying Warner Brothers has a better shot at collecting that $4.5 billion breakup fee than they do getting this deal approved.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I think all this could end up being for naught. And at the end of the day, we're just right back here. And then at that point, it's like, what happens then? Does Warner Brothers just exist? Like, they would have $4 billion on their hands at that point.
I think ultimately what it's also going to do is it's going to hurt their asking price as well. I think Warner Brothers is going to be viewed as highly overvalued.
Yeah.
Well,
you can argue now. I mean, look at what we're into the hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, and everyone said that Disney overpaid for Fox at 74.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking I never thought this would have reached the levels it's reached with the bidding for Warner Brothers.
Well, do you think there's a possibility that, like, if this falls through with Netflix and Paramount and all that stuff, that like a tech company like Apple or somebody like that will come in and get it?
Definitely possible. I mean, Apple, their market share in streaming is low, but they have tons of cash.
Yeah, they have like $2 or $3 trillion in free cash flow. And by the way, John here says that, market capitalization doesn't mean a whole lot. That's true. However, I mean, Oracle's net, fiscal year net income of 2025 was like $12 to $17, whether it's GAAP or non-GAAP. But that's not who's buying the company. It's Paramount, and their net income sucks. And even Netflix is probably sitting at about $12 billion. I mean, they can obviously more so afford it. I mean, they're a direct buyer and not just a backing financier. So that's good. But it's like, come on, $100 billion. And now they're doing a cash offer. I think they took stock options off the table.
They did. I think that's what I think they're going to redo is make an all cash offer and take the stocks off. Which
if I'm Warner Bros. If hold on, I'm not taking that deal. I want the stock options.
I would assume. Yeah.
One thing real quick. I'm really kind of confused on where the Saudis just left, and like, because we had this whole conversation, I believe the very first time Jared and I did a video together. The Saudis were supposed to be one of the biggest, people to come buy this company, and they're just I haven't heard anything from them.
I think they're still with Paramount on some of the backing, I think.
Oh,
but I do know David Ellison did change, so they've amended this offer a few times. The more recent one that I'm aware of, there may be a different one now, because again, this story has changed 1,000 times, but David Ellison did personally back, like he was the financier, like backing the whole thing and not the trust. Because that was every time they've done this, Warner Brothers says, well, the trust is backing this, we don't trust that. So it's like, okay, then he came out. So every time they do this, they find another reason to kind of like, go with Netflix, which I think is what they want to do. Hormone Monstrosity says, I just put a bet on Josh on Cal Sheet. There you go. How much did you put in? What's the, I wonder what the potential payout there is.
It's fucking hilarious.
I love it.
Might make it a little extra cash on that. You never know.
But yeah, I agree with you though, Jared, on that. I think Netflix is going to win, but they're ultimately just going to be like, nope, sorry guys, we're not giving it to you.
It's such an uphill battle. I mean, that's the whole. I'm looking at this whole thing of like, whoever ends up with, even if Paramount gets it, I think there's a really decent chance that the regulators don't allow Paramount to get it. So Netflix, I think, would be even harder. But I find the argument about YouTube being in the same category as streaming services like Netflix, like I don't think that argument's going to fly. I do think there's a difference.
I think
there is. That's weak. That's really weak. The problem with Paramount also is that when you have a studio buying another studio, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
So the layoffs will be way worse with Paramount because you both of these companies do the same thing, where Netflix is a different company and there's going to be less redundancies there.
I agree. You're looking at 40 to 50% layoffs within the first year.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And this is a very valid point here from Cole Stahl 5856. How is a studio going to get their money back overpaying for WB? That's a great question. I mean, what would be your path to profitability after paying $130 billion for this? Like, I don't even. That would take you like 50 years or more.
Well, that's the. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I'm sorry, Tons. Go ahead. Buddy.
No, I was just gonna say that's what's like more confusing about everything is like they're making this push for it, and you're like, how are they gonna get that fucking money back? And that's why I'm thinking they must know something that the rest of this world doesn't know.
Or it's billionaires' egos, and they just want the thing and they don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, that's always a potential out there that they're just like, no, I'm buying this, and I don't care if it costs me my entire fortune to get it.
Well, and here's the thing with Netflix. You talk about like how do you make your money back buying Warner Brothers? All Netflix has to do though is release K-pop Demon Hunters too. And they're back in back in the black.
I mean, realistic with Netflix, if they did take some of their stuff into the theaters, that would add another revenue stream for them.
Oh, absolutely.
They currently don't have. So I would say maybe Netflix is more set up to be profitable from this, whereas Paramount, I agree with you, Jose. They're just so unproven with this. It's like, would they even manage the IPs well? Like, there's a lot of questions with either of them.
Well, you bring up a really good point, and I know you want to close it up here because you got to get up really early in the morning. But one thing that Netflix would probably do is they probably cut a lot of their operating expenses when it comes to film and just focus more so on TV series, because we all know Netflix is not popular for their movies. Their movies are kind of crap.
Yeah,
but they make some really good shows when they keep them around. That is, but the operational expenditure would be cut significantly by allowing Warner Brothers to do the movie side of the house, and then Netflix can focus on their TV series.
Yeah, that's a good point. By the way, I will say Netflix movies. Do you guys watch The Rip, that Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie?
No, it looks good.
I want to.
It's actually it's solid. Like, it's not the best thing I've ever seen, but I throughout the thing, it's kind of a mystery in it. I was compelled.
Okay.
I watched the whole thing. I didn't intend to, and I was kind of drawn into it. So it's not bad.
I mean, Netflix has been putting out some pretty good fucking movies recently.
Yeah.
K-pop Demon Hunter, and then the Frankenstein movie. That movie was phenomenal.
I saw that. I watched that.
Yeah,
so good.
And I always like Affleck and Damon together.
Yeah,
they're just
together.
good. They had a couple of scenes in there like that were pretty solid. But John here says, is Mattel's new water park going to be talked about today? Not today. We are going to end this because Jose, pardon me, I didn't mean to dead name you there. Jose, I got to get up early and drive to Missouri tomorrow. So we're going to end this here. And so normally we go through the chat. I apologize. We're not going to be able to do that tonight, as this was kind of kind of squeeze us in here. But I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate you fellas for being here. This is a great conversation as always. Tones, you're always welcome.
Appreciate you.
And I might actually start watching, because I really like breaking down like Stranger Things in depth. I might start watching Game of Thrones because I like doing that stuff.
Hey,
so
let me know. Let me know.
But before we go, give everybody a chance here to tell everybody where to check them out. So Orange Grove 55, thank you for being here as always.
Absolutely.
And where can everybody find you?
Yeah, always fun talking shop with you guys. Thank you everybody in the chat for showing up. Really, really good time. Tones Poppy, it was great to have you on, brother. Got to get you on another live very, very soon. Yeah, you can find me right here on YouTube, Orange Grove 55, talking theme park studio with all these fine gentlemen. Even the corporate side, we dive into that. As you can see tonight, we did a little bit with the Dana Walden and the Josh stuff. Also on X, I'm at Orange Grove 55, and also on Instagram, Orange Grove 55. And again, thank you to the amazing chat and a lot of good conversation tonight. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, thank you for the chat. Thank you for the gifted memberships. You guys are awesome. And on this late impromptu stream, definitely appreciate it. Theme Park Philosophy. Where can everybody find you? And before, go subscribe to Theme Park Philosophy. He's going to do some awesome stuff. I like the angle of the channel, and it's going to get better. So where can they find you?
Jared, thanks so much for having me back on. This is Theme Parkin', and everybody, thanks for hanging out late. It's past midnight here on the East Coast, so if you're still here, and by the way, I got a really good suggestion for an intro now. Since we're doing these late Theme Parkins, what you need to do is take Skinemax's inspiration, just whisper into the mic, Theme Park Magic, Theme Park Magic.
Or After Hours.
But thanks so much. I really appreciate it. If you want to check me out, go check out my YouTube channel called Theme Park Philosophy. Essentially, I use philosophy to examine theme parks, the companies that run them, and what they reveal about the human experience. So if you're into that kind of stuff, go check me out there.
Now real quick, Jared and Jose, I think Tones might be a little too young, but do you guys remember, speaking of Skinemax, but do you guys remember like when you were like younger and you're flipping through the channels?
Oh,
I mean, and you get a little glimpse with the.
I cannot confirm or deny that I've
like through the,
I confirmed it.
Like through the static, right? You can like through the static, you can kind of.
I remember my grandpa before he died when I was like really young, but we'd sit there on my grandma's couch and he would end up being on like Skinemax, and my grandma would come in like, "What are you watching?" And we're just like, "I don't know." We're too young to know what's going on, but
it just landed on this channel. Weird.
It's weird. I thought it was a documentary. I don't know what's going on here. This is strange, but Tones TV, thank you for being here. Always, I enjoyed streaming with Tones, and I like the approach, especially on entertainment stuff. He knows this stuff, so go check out his channel. But where can everybody find you? And we'll have you back on soon for sure.
No, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure talking to you, gentlemen. Yeah, guys, if you guys want to find me, I do a lot of movie and TV show. Like I said, we just got done doing Stranger Things, wrapped up. So we broke down the season, we broke down the finale, gave you our opinions. Jared was on there, Jay Shear and Tommy. And right now we're doing a lot of Game of Thrones content this year, amongst other shows. We're doing The Night in the Seven Kingdoms, which just aired episode 1. So we're going to be doing episode breakdowns of that. And then once House of the Dragon season 3 drops, we're going to be doing that as well. So we're doing a lot of TV shows throughout the year. So go to Tones_TV on all platforms. You guys can find me there.
There you go. Also really good on TikTok. I see your stuff on TikTok pop up all the time. I'm not on TikTok a lot, but every time I get on there, it's like your video is always first. I'm like, oh,
hey, that's a good sign.
The algorithm likes it, I think. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you everybody in the chat. Again, thank you for the gifted memberships and for hanging out with us. And I'm going to do a journey to Missouri and back in 2 or 3 days. So I will. I'm trying to beat that big old storm that's coming. I was going to come back on Sunday, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get there Wednesday night. I'm going to be back on. I'm probably going to drive through the night on Friday and get back sometime Saturday, and then just crash at my house. So that's my plan there. But we'll still have some videos coming out, and thank you guys for being here. And we'll get some news when the new CEO gets named. We'll talk about it on here and be back again. So thank you guys for being here. Have a great evening, and we will talk to everybody later. See you guys.